Joining us to go through today's headlines is the esteemed actor Christopher Biggins and the even more esteemed writer and commentator. Why are we laughing? You're acting. Your thespian skills.
No, it's just so as you went into your opening pattern, we said something and it was just.
Don't involve me in it.
No. Anyway, sorry, Eamonn, carry on. You're brilliant.
The esteemed actor Christopher Biggins and the even more esteemed writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth. Candice, no, here's a very interesting thing, right? Yeah. So we're in this whole Israeli-Hamas situation, what's going on in Gaza, but the Mail are reporting, and I think other people are reporting
Telegraph,
as well.
yeah.
Telegraph, front page of the Telegraph, that a lot of people find it disgraceful that Hamas has been classified as a terrorist organisation, but it appears the BBC will not refer to them as terrorists, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting story because, as we know, Hamas is a proscribed organisation. If you declare support for it, I mean, you could face about 14 years in prison. So people are saying, why is the BBC reluctant to label them as such or to call them as such? When this is clearly what they are and what they've done is a terrorist act. I don't think you could describe it in any other way. On the other side of it, people would say that that's not the position the BBC wants to take. They believe that's the government's position. That's how it's been described to me anyway. That's why they are reluctant to do it.
But the difficulty is, yeah, and I understand this is probably one of those classic editorial charter type nightmares for the BBC, but their issue is not just the government that have declared that. I mean, as you say, it's written in law.
Yes.
It carries a prison sentence, so the BBC's not accepting the legitimacy of the law that I
what
think
are
is
they called? Do we have an idea of what they are calling Hamas?
I think they'll just refer to them as Hamas.
Militants. You know, history will tell you that in Northern Ireland, where Sinn Féin were the political wing of the IRA were a prescribed organisation, and to discredit Sinn Féin, the unionist politicians used to constantly refer to Sinn Féin or the IRA as Sinn Féin IRA. They give them that double-barrelled name, and that obviously did Sinn Féin a lot of harm in terms of credibility, but it was an interesting tactic. But if any of us called Hamas a terrorist organisation...
You'd be up for it.
Well, I mean, could they do anything about it? No was the answer on BBC programmes. I don't think so.
No, I mean, it's a statement, isn't it? It's a true statement.
Yeah, it's just, you know, they're going to have another look at their style guide. It's not fit for purpose in 2023. Biggins, can we talk about ULEZ and a tank has driven through London to avoid it?
Well, this is
a viral video.
Yeah, they've taken my idea because I'd love to take a tank through London and get all the cyclists who go wrong and go through traffic lights and they have their own rules.
You see, what I object about this tank for is that this really rips up the tarmac. If you've ever followed a tank or anything with those sort of caterpillar tracks,
that is true.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And this has been allowed to drive around, ULEZ aside, the damage it will be doing to the tarmac surface is incredible.
But presumably it's definitely not low emissions when you've got a tank.
No.
I couldn't imagine
I suppose they're so frustrated, they want to do something, you know, and look at the publicity it's getting.
Yeah, it's Trafalgar Square, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in this day and age,
it's fairly alarming. Where have they got a tank from?
Well, so many conflicts are happening all over the world. I mean, you know, it's to see this pop up in London, it could be an invasion of some sort, who knows?
Where should we go? Should we talk about another viral video now, Candice? This one is about the fury of women in tech at a special conference because it's overrun with men claiming to be non-binary and they cut in front of female attendees to network with employees.
Yes, so this is a video that's been doing the rounds. It's caused a lot of outrage because this is a tech event that's aimed specifically at women, and it's a really important one. It's a lot of networking opportunities and can be very lucrative. And there were a lot of men there, and women were confused as to why men were there, because this is generally a women-only event. And it was reported that some of them had identified as non-binary to get in. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's been definitively established. But I suppose...
Well, they're in. They're in.
Yes. So obviously we have to find out why. I mean, if this is a women-only event, why were they...
This was the Grace Hopper celebration of women in computing in Orlando, Florida.
Which I assume is important because
Major
probably
tech
is probably dominated by geeky men.
Yes.
I would assume.
Yes, very much so, very much so. I think even with things like computer science, I mean, many girls don't take it beyond a certain level. So it is really important to let women know that actually it's for you as well. You're welcome in these industries. So I don't know what went wrong at this event. It could be that all those men did identify as non-binary, or it could be something else as well. I mean, I don't want to say just based on speculation.
Yeah.
But if you did want to identify as non-binary, you just have to say it there. You don't have to have any certificate to say that mentally or physically that you're...
Well, exactly,
you just say, I feel non-binary.
Yes, you wear a bit of lipstick.
I look non-binary to you.
You do, actually, funny enough. I think it would probably helped if you wore a bit of lipstick, actually.
Yes.
Well, no, because that would be quite binary.
Oh, I see. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Androgynous look, maybe.
Okay.
Shall we go to the awful weather in Scotland? And you guys were here when we were speaking to Nathan Rao earlier.
Yes,
10
his dog.
had to be airlifted to safety. This is in the Times, Christopher.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, and you were mentioning, Eamonn, about railway stations, which are like lakes. And people just standing there looking at them. I mean, it's been quite horrific, the rain. I mean, 10 people had to be airlifted from their cars. And a very good thing, what you said earlier, what do you do if you're in a car? I mean, it's suddenly everything around you turns into a lake or a river or what have you, running. I mean, it must be terrifying.
Well, one of the things, well, it's not for me to give advice, but one of the things that I would think, it's this terrible dilemma. Do you lower your windows? Because if you're consumed with water, you won't be able to open your windows or open the door. So should you do that in advance? I saw a woman being rescued from a car and she got out her window by doing this.
Well, that's what you do, though, if you go into a lake, don't you, or into the sea. You're supposed to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't think it would get that high. I suppose it could get that high on a road.
Oh, gosh, it has,
Absolutely,
yeah. It happens all the time,
One of the first stories I did as a reporter in the West Country was after a landslide, and someone was coming through a tunnel, and the landslide had come down over the exit, and they'd just been for dinner, this couple, in their Valentine's Day, and they got to the edge, and they basically suffocated in the mud.
Oh, no.
Of the...
Awful. And this is a story here in the Times, is that 10 people had to be airlifted to safety after their cars became stranded in Scotland because of landslips that follow the flooding there with that. So, Candice, when I go to the Telegraph, Sir Keir Starmer has declared that he would scrap the Rwanda border plan even if it succeeded in getting the small boat numbers down.
Yeah, so this is a story in the Telegraph, and Sir Keir Starmer has now come out and said very openly, I'm going to scrap the Rwanda plan. I mean, we're still awaiting the outcome of the Supreme Court ruling on this, if the government can send people to Rwanda. But whenever the election's going to be called, he's putting clear blue water between himself and the Conservatives on this. I think the only issue is that people have said to him, well, what's your solution? And he said he's going to tackle the migrant gangs. But the National Crime Agency has been very critical of that approach, because they say that the way that the trafficking gangs work is they're very fragmented, it's difficult to focus on them, so you actually do need legal incentives and disincentives. So that is something they may have to think about as well.
And the public seem broadly in favour of these flights, whether, especially if they're found to be legal. It's a brave position to take but maybe, he's saying to people, don't be complacent. They had their by-election last week. Maybe he just feels so comfortable in his win. Yeah. And it's just an ideological thing for him that he's opposed.
Well, you're right, because it could just be factors sort of beyond his control. I mean, the SNP is sort of losing support in Scotland, for instance.
Right. In court, there's a story in the Express. The singer Aled Jones has seen the teenager who threatened and robbed him locked up. He was there for the sentencing. How bad was this attack, Christopher?
Well, he was walking along and...
Was he walking in the air?
Walking in the air, yes, absolutely. And he was wearing a watch worth £17,500.
Crikey.
And the man took the watch and said, walk ahead and don't look back, otherwise, because he had a machete, otherwise I'll cut your head off.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and this is happening time and time again now. I mean, I've heard stories of people in cars in Mayfair, and they've actually smashed the window of the car moving along, driving along, and then taken the watch off the passengers in the back.
Well, they know what they're looking for. I mean, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if it was a fake, if it was real, how much it would be worth
a
roughly.
chance, though, I suppose, if they want these things.
It is. And, you know, we talk about this, and yet the front story of the Mirror today is about a young lad called Jack Rigby, who was the soldier Lee Rigby's son. And he gets a Pride of Britain award, which you'll be able to see this week. But the thing is, we talk about it when a threat's made, I'm going to cut your head off. In this case, it actually happened.
Yeah. And also, you know, what is terrifying is that they don't get a sentence. They just get told off and given a sort of warning. And I think there should be stricter rules on this. I think people...
This guy, it says, you sent to jail.
No, I don't think he was he?
Oh, it says here, he's locked up after threatened to... But
I don't know well, anyway, I mean, I don't think it's good enough what they are dishing out as the sentence.
What I didn't know, Eamonn, is how many tank experts we have watching the programme this morning. So thank you. Loads of you emailing in the last few minutes, pretty much all saying the same. Road-driven tanks have rubber pads fitted to their tracks to prevent road damage. And we've got lots of veterans from all over. This one's from Yorkshire, another one's armoured vehicle in London. It's not actually a tank as well as another one. It's a self-propelled gun, and they do not rip up tarmac. So thank you for correcting us on that. And it's interesting.
Oh, I still stand by what I'm saying, especially on a hot day.
You can see the rubber, apparently, on the tyres. So.
Yeah, I used to see it. We used to see it in Northern Ireland quite a lot when there was Caterpillar tracks on vehicles, and how your road was ripped up with it. So just speaking from experience on that. So that's not actually a tank. That's a self-propelled gun.
Yeah,
apparently. There we go. I'm no expert.
Things you learn.
Biggins and Candice, thank you so much for reviewing our papers and our viral videos and all the things making headlines today.
It's been a
pleasure.
Yes.
For all the areas we've covered this morning, you've made me giggle.
Yes.
And we're going to get a check on the forecast. Bit of a mixed bag. Here's Jonathan Vautry.